I'm worried. I think wokeism is an issue, but I also think these arguments are a distraction from what's happened on the economic side of things. Yeah, we are trapped between inflation and high taxation, and then people are struggling.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think of those things as being separate or even counter to each other. If you think about what you said about inflation being right wing, that is a symptom of what I'm talking about, which is we have dumb conversations instead of addressing real issues. And to me, that is the core of wokeness, actually. I mean, if you think about some of the key principles behind that ideology, one of them is instead of looking at people in terms of the circumstances into which they're born and in which they grow up, this used to be kind of how the left used to look at things. You know, if you're born into a working class family, your outcomes in life are less likely to be as good as someone who grows up in an affluent area, in an affluent family, right? That used to be the way we thought. And so if it didn't used to matter whether you were black or white or whatever, it was more about, are you poor, basically, right? And if you are poor, that's who we should be targeting things at. Now we've created this very perverse system where, you've got elite people from minority backgrounds being given opportunities and rewarded, not for their skills and talents and merit, but for the fact that they look like some people who had a bad lot in life sometime in the past or even do today. And so very often, some of the guests we've had on the show will talk about how this is really unhelpful to working class minority people, because what's happening is, in order to pretend that we're helping them, we're helping some elite people who also have dark skin, right? And that to me is a big problem. Now, in terms of economics, I understand what you're saying and I agree with it. And I've been, one of the reasons that I think people underestimate the importance of the economic issues is the housing crisis we have in this country. And I always say to my conservative friends, how do you expect people to have a more conservative-minded frame of the world when they literally have no attachment and no grounding in the place in which they live, where they're living with 5 people in a flat in London? They can't partner up, they can't marry, they can't have kids. And these are all the things that are going to put you into the real world in a way that you and I both as parents know. Like, once you've got kids, you sort of start to see the world in a very different way, right? Well, if you've got people in the mid and late 30s who physically cannot have kids, what you think they're going to be conservative? You think they're going to have that pragmatic approach? It's not going to happen, right? So I agree with you, the economics is important, but I also think we shouldn't underestimate the nature of the threat to our society from some of the stuff that's being pushed by this ideology. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I mean, one of them is the diversity bureaucracy, right? If you think about what that is essentially a system of anti-meritocracy, right? Now, if you run a business, which you and I both do, and you operate that business by employing people not because of how good they are at their job, but by what boxes they tick, what is likely to be the economic outcome of that sort of approach? Right?
It's
Negative. Now look at government.
Or not optimum.
Not optimal, right? Look at government. Look at education. Look at any system in which this is heavily practiced. This way of looking at the world is anti-meritocratic, is therefore anti-results. It's therefore putting us at a disadvantage against other people and other competitor countries. So you can see how it starts to affect everything. And so to me, these things are not disconnected, because this way of looking at the world prevents us from accurately responding to the very real challenges that you're talking about.
Do you think the primary issue then is that we've elevated people, essentially stupid people who don't think rationally about situations, into positions of power, who are able to rally troops around them with slogans and virtues, a bit like the Just Stop Oil people? And by the way, I'm somebody who cares about the environment and also fully understand that their argument is completely stupid. I mean, just the point, just stop oil, doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
So is it this elevation of, it's almost like there isn't a meritocracy to the elevation of power.
Absolutely. And I think, I'm wary of saying that it's stupid people at the top, because the more you meet them, the more you realize they're not stupid. My view is that most of them aren't anyway. My view is that people respond to incentives.
Right.
And if you create a perverse incentive structure, then you end up with perverse outcomes. And I think that is much more the situation that we've got. And Just Stop Oil is a very good example of this. Like you, I think the environment is really important. I don't think we're going to fix climate change to the extent that it needs fixing by making billions of people poor. I don't think we're going to fix it by, freezing pensioners to death in Britain every winter because we don't have enough energy. I think we have to have a pragmatic approach to all of these problems if we're going to fix them. And so if you create an environment where shouting about how much of a victim you are gets you attention and is rewarded with TV time, and I end up debating these people on various shows all the time and stuff like that. They're there not because of merit, but because they're making a lot of noise. And therefore, the issues that actually ought to be dealt with aren't getting dealt with in a rational way.
How have we got here from your kind of understanding of the background to this? Is this been just an organic movement, or is there something more sinister going on? Is this how did we get here?
Yes.
Because I don't know.
It's all those things
Okay.
in some ways. So one of the things I think is social media